Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent and the Merciful. Now with today's main headlines. Shia residents of Syrian towns of Nablus and Al-Zahra face worsening humanitarian crisis. Honorable residents of Grand Ayatollah Shirazi commemorates martyrdom of Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. ICC prosecutor seeks arrest warrants for Taliban. Apple faces lawsuit for allegedly spying on employees. Assalamu alaikum dear viewers, this is Hussein Shia Waves live from Imam Hussein TV 3 in London. The towns of Nablus and Al-Zahra in Syria are facing an escalating humanitarian crisis following forced evacuation orders issued by armed opposition groups, including Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and other extremist factions. Shia Waves agency has documented harrowing scenes of displaced families fleeing their homes amidst systematic sectarian targeting of Shia followers of Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them. The footage reveals hundreds of families wandering from one village to another without finding shelter, water or food, let alone milk for their children, solely due to their Shia identity. The situation on the ground in Nablus and Al-Zahra has become unlivable as clashes and tensions between armed groups and Syrian forces intensify. Residents face existential threats and lack the most basic necessities of life. Witnesses report that armed groups employ oppressive methods and enforce a policy of forced displacement against the town's inhabitants, deepening the suffering of those who are now homeless and resource deprived. This worsening humanitarian tragedy demands an urgent international action to ensure civilian protection, halt sectarian targeting and provide essential humanitarian aid to those displaced who face deprivation and homelessness in their own homeland. Shia followers of Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them, have begun their mourning processions and ceremonies over the martyrdom anniversary of Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra, peace be upon her, based on their 95-day narration. In commemoration of this painful tragedy, the honourable residents of the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid al-Hussein Shirazi has begun a 3-day-long mourning sessions with the attendance of the Grand Marja and large crowds of Shia mourners. The first morning gathering was held on Tuesday morning and afternoon. Distinguished speakers including Al-Muayyid Al-Khani and Al-Islami discussed the tragedies faced by the Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them, particularly the sufferings and oppression of Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra, peace be upon her. In Madagascar, the office of the Grand Marja has also begun its morning sessions to commemorate this tragedy of Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them. These sessions are attended by followers of Ahlul Bayt, especially the younger generation, to extend and express their sadness over Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra martyrdom. The International Criminal Court's prosecutor seeks arrest warrants for Taliban officials over ongoing human rights violations in Afghanistan. More details in the following report.
Karim Khan, the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court (ICC), announced plans to request arrest warrants for Taliban officials following the referral of Afghanistan's case by 6 countries, including Chile and Spain. This initiative aims to address severe human rights violations, particularly the systematic oppression of women in Afghanistan since the Taliban regained power in 2021. Reports indicate widespread abuses, including forced marriages, restrictions on education and employment for women, and brutal punishments for those who defied these orders. The ICC's renewed investigation builds upon a previous inquiry initiated in March 2020, focusing on crimes against humanity and gender-based violence. Khan emphasised the court's commitment to impartiality and thoroughness in its investigations. He noted that not only Taliban leaders but also former officials of the Afghan government could face prosecution for their roles in these violations. The ongoing Assembly of States Parties sessions in The Hague underscores the urgency of the ICC's actions, with member states expressing their determination to hold perpetrators accountable. The ICC's proactive stance reflects a broader international commitment to addressing and preventing human rights abuses, signalling that the Taliban's actions will not go unchallenged. This is Aruj Fasma for Shia Waves.
Thank you for that report, Aruj Fatima. Let's take a look back at today's main headlines. Shia residents of Syrian towns of Nablus and Al-Zahra face worsening humanitarian crisis. Honourable residents of Grand Ayatollah Shirazi commemorates martyrdom of Sayyidah Fatima Zahra. ICC prosecutor seeks arrest warrant for Taliban. Also tonight, Grand Ayatollah Shirazi permits use of religious funds to assist Syrian families. Apple Inc. is facing a lawsuit accusing the company of spying on its employees through personal devices linked to iCloud accounts. The suit, filed by Amar Bakhter, a digital advertising employee since 2020, claims that Apple collects data from off-duty workers, including their location, via company-managed devices like iPhones. Bakhter alleges their proprietary software installed on personal devices allows Apple to monitor employees, violating California law by enforcing a policy that permits physical, video and electronic surveillance. He described the situation as creating a panopticon environment where employees are constantly monitored both on and off duty. Bakhter claims that Apple restricts employees' speech regarding their working conditions, wages and political activities. In response, Apple spokesperson Josh Rosenstock stated that the company strongly disagrees with the allegations, asserting their lack of merit. And now we continue with some short news. Saudi Arabia has carried out over 300 executions since the start of 2024, marking an unprecedented figure. This number significantly exceeds the kingdom's previous annual averages of 100 to 150 executions. The Ministry of Interior recently confirmed the execution of 3 foreign nationals for drug trafficking and 1 individual for murder, raising the total to 303. In September alone, Saudi Arabia recorded 190 executions, the highest monthly total in 30 years. The sharp increase in executions has drawn international condemnation, especially as the kingdom seeks to enhance its global image under Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's Vision 2030 reform agenda. Amnesty International ranks Saudi Arabia 3rd globally for executions in recent years, behind China and Iran. Human Rights Watch urged Ethiopian authorities on Monday, December 2nd, to reverse the suspension of 3 human rights organizations: the Center for the Advancement of Rights and Democracy, the Association for Human Rights in Ethiopia, and Lawyers for Human Rights in Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Authority for Civil Society Organizations issued suspension letters on November 14th, citing accusations of political bias and undermining national interests. LHR's suspension was attributed to alleged breaches of political neutrality and detrimental actions against public welfare. CARD faced similar allegations. Each organization has denied these claims and plans to challenge the suspensions, arguing that proper procedures under the Charities and Societies Proclamation were not followed. A Palestinian official has reported that the Israeli army has destroyed and vandalized 206 archaeological and heritage sites in Gaza amid ongoing conflict. Ismail, head of the Gaza's government media office, stated that these acts reflect a systematic strategy to erase Palestinian identity. Key sites affected include the Great Omari Mosque, the Byzantine Church in Jabalia, and the Shrine of Al-Khadir, among others. The destruction spans various historical periods, with some sites dating back to the Phoenician and Roman eras, while others are more recent. Thawar Betta emphasized that these actions aim to undermine Palestinian culture and history, consolidating the occupation and altering the demographic landscape. A mysterious disease has killed 143 people in November in Kwango Province, Democratic Republic of the Congo. Patients exhibited flu-like symptoms including high fever and severe headaches, according to provincial authorities. A medical team has been dispatched to the rural Panzi Health Zone to collect samples and identify the illness. Amid rising infections and limited medicine supplies, women and children are reportedly the most affected. The World Health Organization alerted last week its collaboration with Congo's health ministry to investigate the outbreak. The United Nations has reported that the drought costs the world more than $307 billion each year, a figure expected to rise significantly as climate change worsens. The alarming finds were presented during the ongoing 16th session of the Conference of the Parties, COP16 in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where global leaders were discussing strategies to combat desertification. The report highlights that by 2050, drought is projected to impact 75% of the global population, driven by human-induced environmental degradation. As COP16 discussions continue, the UN urges world leaders to recognize the preventable costs of drought and to prioritize sustainable land and water management to foster resilience in vulnerable communities. Amid the current events in Syria, which have displaced many believers, the Office of the Supreme Religious Authority, His Eminence Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sadiq al-Hussein Shirazi in Holy Qom, has issued a statement permitting the allocation of the Imam's share to aid and assist the displaced homeless individuals. The statement reads as follows: In the name of Allah, the most compassionate and the most merciful. Praise be to Allah Almighty, Lord of the worlds, and peace and blessings be upon the Master of Messengers, Muhammad, and his pure, immaculate family. Thereafter, His Eminence, the Supreme Religious Authority, Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sadiq al-Hussein Shirazi, permits the allocation of all religious funds and rightful dues from the Imam's share for the honourable believers, both men and women, who are migrants, displaced and affected in Syria, as well as for their families and various needs. The statement continues, may Allah relieve their distress and the distress of the oppressed everywhere. There is no power nor strength except through Allah, the Most High, the Most Great. It should be mentioned that a similar statement was issued by His Eminence following the humanitarian crisis in Lebanon, which left hundreds of thousands of believers displaced and in dire need of humanitarian assistance. All charitable organizations affiliated to Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sadiq have been working on providing affected families with their needs. We have reached the end of today's Shia Waves news. Let's remind our dear viewers of today's main headlines. Shia residents of Syrian towns of Nablus and Al-Zahra face worsening humanitarian crisis. Honourable residents of Grand Ayatollah Shirazi commemorates martyrdom of Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra, peace be upon her. ICC prosecutor seeks arrest warrant for Taliban. Apple faces lawsuit for allegedly spying on employees. Grand Ayatollah Shirazi permits use of religious funds to assist Syrian families. You can view the latest news on our Shia Waves website, and you can send news of your city or country to be published on news agency. Contact the numbers at the bottom of the screen. Thank you all for watching. We pray to Allah Almighty to hasten the reappearance of the Master of our time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
In the heart of London, Imam Hussein Media Group is on the brink of an extraordinary transformation. We are securing a new home, a sanctuary named after the Queen of Karbala, Lady Zainab Salamullahi alayhi, who commemorated Abi Abdullah al-Hussein and spread the message of Karbala. This new complex, spanning 500